Hi, Conan at Project Music here, joined once again by Ben Milverton.
Hello.
And we've been asked a couple of times on the channel to talk about the new Ultra II Fender guitars. So, here we are. We have a couple of them here. One Tele, one Strat. And I guess we'll run through a few of the specs, things like that, a couple of the changes from the previous Ultra models, and then we'll get them into Ben's hands. He'll explore some of the tones, and then we will reconvene to see what we thought afterwards. Now, both me and Ben were probably more into, I suppose, more vintage spec guitars, I suppose, more old school stuff overall. However, initial kind of getting hands on these things, they do feel great. They are very, very well made guitars. You know, fit and finish is fantastic. I guess the proof will be in the pudding when we hear the tones and things like that. So, but we'll kind of run through some of the specs first. So we'll start with the Tele. This one is one of the Texas T Teles with rosewood board.
It's the best finish.
Which is, yeah, you really like this finish.
Yeah,
That's what you were saying as we were bringing them down. You were saying how much you like. Oh yeah, I could go for one of those right now. Yeah. And what they've basically got in this guy here, you've got the Ultra II vintage noiseless pickups. You have your standard three-way switch, but you also have the S1 switch, which gives you basically a series parallel switch there, so volume and tone as normal. You've got a compound radius board. You also have the modern D-shaped neck, which is a little bit chunkier than, I guess, the standard Fender neck, but it's not massive in any way. It's actually just quite a nice size neck on that one. Locking tuners as well on this guy. And of course, with the Ultras, as they've kind of done over the years, they've got these contours. You've got your body contour, you've got a slightly different contour on the back here as well. But on the addition from the previous version is you've got your arm contour here, so super comfortable on that one. And then we've got the Strat over here in the Arctic White with the lovely maple board. Obviously you've got locking tuners on that one too. You've got your standard Strat 3 single coils. Those are, again, they're Ultra II noiseless pickups. And on that one you have, again, you've got the standard 5-way switch, but you've got the S1 switch, which in positions 1 and 2 bring in the neck pickup, so you can get all kinds of combinations of tones there. Of course, you've got the modern style 2-point trem, which is super stable. And yeah, just a really solid, very, very modern Strat and very, very modern Tele. So what we're going to do is, well, I mean, first of all, what are your initial thoughts just picking it up and having a bit of a noodle on it as we were sort of setting up? What was your kind of initial thoughts on the Strat?
I think the things about Ultras in general is the playability of them. Compound radius I do really like. I know I'm more of a vintage guy, so these guitars always sometimes feel a bit strange to me with like skinny necks and stuff, but because it's a Strat and I love Strats, there's a bit more comfortability there. But compound radius is always nice, really, because of the bending up high and stuff. That is my main favourite thing about these guitars, apart from the finishes. Yeah. They're just very well made, high quality instruments by Fender. It's cool.
Yeah, I guess that's for both of us. It's even though it's not our flavour of Tele and Strat, you can definitely appreciate just how well they are put together. And I think it'll be one of those things. I think we'll like the tones. It's whether they're the right tones for, I guess, for your own style of playing and all that sort of thing. But what we'll do, we will do our normal thing: bit of clean, bit of overdrive, maybe a bit of higher gain as well. Possibly we'll maybe just push the Sidecar a little bit further just to see what it can do see how the vintage noiseless pickups handle a bit more gain. I think would be a good idea. Bit of jamming, that sort of thing, and we'll see how we get on. So let's get to it. So there we have some pretty ultra tones.
Nice.
Thank you. I think my preferred one was this one here from a tonal point of view. I felt like there was more, from sitting on the outside, listening, more of an organic nature to the tone of it somehow. It still had a very polished, almost studio-esque kind of top end somehow. It was very, we were saying sort of earlier about sort of the compression of it, feels more record studio-y in a sense, rather than, you know, when you're sitting in the room. What about you? What did you think when you were playing them and listening? What was your...
I think that's a better guitar too, but like, I think more, obviously guitar is so different, so that's probably just a good Ultra.
Happens to be the one that's just inspired you a bit more.
Because even like Unplugged, it resonates quite a lot and stuff like that. But, and I think also with the pickups, the noiseless pickups with that weird presency thing they've got going on, the compression thing, the studio like high fidelity thing, it sort of lends itself more to the in-between Strat tones. Because like we're comparing it to that HM Strat upstairs. With the TBX stuff and all the crazy studio, almost like, I've been listening to loads of Dan Huff, so it's like that Stratier than Strat sort of sounds, and it has a bit of that like studio 80s Strat going for it.
And I guess that makes sense with what they're kind of aiming for. There's that like high performance, almost the perfect version of a Strat, and I think, as we said at the beginning of the video, we're both more in that kind of camp of those slight imperfections in a more vintage style instrument is part of the magic, I think, in the tonal side of things, sometimes the playability as well. And I think the thing that I never liked so much about Elites and Ultras and all that sort of thing was I felt like there just wasn't any of that inspirational kind of, I don't know, organic nature to them somehow. Obviously I didn't play them through the amp just a minute ago, but I have played them before through them. And I do find these new Ultras, these new pickups are the closest to a kind of, they have a bit of that old school Strat or Tele feel, but they're still kind of lacking a little bit of that for me, like just from my personal preference. But sitting out the front and listening, like there was a couple of tones during the Strat video, I was just like, yeah, that is such a great sound.
It's great.
Under my fingers,
three pickup thing.
Yeah, I think I know you're a real Strat guy. You know, it's something that Ben revels in is the Strat, and under my fingers, I'd probably struggle to get the inspiration out of it. Not that it's not a great guitar, and it sounds fantastic, and playability on them is brilliant.
Yeah, they play great, both of them.
It's just a tonal thing for me, I guess. It's just not my flavour. But man, there was a couple of moments in the Strat video that really kind of made me go, yeah, actually, that's kind of a sound that I feel like maybe I could, I'm not sure. I'd have to sit with it for a while, I guess, get used to it.
I think the interesting thing about this is it's obviously changed more, right? So the modern carves are put on this thing. So when I play it, it doesn't feel like a Telecaster,
right?
Which kind of puts me in a different headspace, which is cool and is interesting because it's almost like you forget you're playing a Tele. And I know before I've struggled in the past with playing guitars that put you in a certain headspace. So like you pick up a Tele and you want to play country, or you want to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan if you pick up a Strat and stuff like that. Whereas this doesn't have that. Like I'm not instantly going. When I pick this up, it's much more, like, not versatile, but less pigeonholed.
Okay, I suppose that's why guitars like this are very popular for studio musicians and I guess guys who are playing in maybe possibly in multiple bands and things like that, because you can pull so much out of one instrument. You know, if you're going to a gig and you need to play 20 different styles of music and you've got, essentially you've kind of got two sets of pickups here in a way because of the way that the S1 switch, same with that one. You just gives you more versatility right there under your fingers, which I guess makes a huge amount of sense for studio and things like that.
And the S1 on this with the series parallel, that is a really cool sound.
Yeah, there was some very cool sounds.
Almost humbuckery, isn't it?
Yeah, which is fantastic. So there we go. I think as much as they're not necessarily at the top of our list of guitars that we're into, man, I can appreciate how good these guitars are.
Great.
Feel fantastic.
Nice.
They sound brilliant.
Satiny.
And they are they are literally the ultra modern Strat and Tele, and they do a fantastic job, even up against, we've had a lot of high end very, very modern guitars coming through our hands here, like Mayonnaise, Sir, all that sort of thing. And they do hold up against them. I think they really do kind of go up against them. I think an interesting video at some point would be to go grab a couple of those guitars and put them up against them and see, what are their crossover points and things like that. And I guess if you're just a really big Fender person, but you want something super modern Fender, I mean, these are pretty phenomenal pieces of kit.
They're great.
They are really, really good. I think they've slightly surprised me now of, when we're in the shop and we talk about these things and we play them quickly for a few minutes, but maybe it's a busy environment, whatever it is, it's hard to make a proper judgment in a sense.
Yeah.
But that's what I quite like about when I do videos. We do videos together is we can be a little bit more specific with our listening and kind of, I can sit over there and go, what am I actually hearing? What is actually there? And it was really cool to listen to these two guitars in such cool detail over a few different sounds with drive and all that sort of thing. Very, very impressed. I think it seemed like this one I could definitely tell when you were playing it, you seemed more inspired by it.
I was getting into it.
You were getting into it a little bit. If we would have played for longer, who knows what would have come out of those hands.
Part of me always thinks that maybe it's the order I've played them in as well. Like if I play it second, it's kind of like I'm warmed up a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Strat thing always does it for me. Yeah. And like I said before, this feels unusual to me because I'm not used to playing Teles with cutaways.
I guess you've got quite a traditional Tele as well yourself, so
whereas that is a Strat.
It's still a Strat, it just has different pickups in a sense. So there we go. That is the end of our Ultra experiment. So these are the Ultra IIs, the Strat and the Tele. They both sound fantastic.
They look really cool.
Excellent,
the thing I like about
Texas
them
T, I'm glad they kept that. I was a bit worried when they're like, we're going to change all the colours, and I was like, what about Texas T? But they've kept it, and it still looks fantastic. So, I hope that was a helpful video with all of our Ultra waffling. Just make sure you hit that subscribe button because that sort of helps us out building the channel a little bit more. And we'll do some more videos like this in the future. Obviously, pop in the comments, things like that. If there's anything you're like, I'd like them to explore that route. So, and thank you very much as always, Ben. And we'll see you in the next video from us here at Project Music.
Cheers.